this time, I'd like to ask everybody, if you have a cell phone or other audible device, please turn it off for the silence so that it doesn't interrupt the proceedings of this meeting. At this time, we're going to dispense with the reading of the policies and procedures for how to conduct yourself during a public hearing. If anybody has any questions in that regard, there's a copy of the public participation at the second door leading out to the lobby. You get one if you like. We'll also dispense with review of the minutes and reading the minutes. Does anybody have any questions, comments, edits, concerns about the minutes of the previous meeting of this body? At this time, I'll entertain a motion with regard to the minutes from the previous session.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve the minutes by Mr. Chambers, a second by Mr. Stokes. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0-1. Mr. Robinson, I understand there's a change in the agenda for the first item. Would you please explain that?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman. Application 2014-04 SUP, application by Marshall Melvin for a cell tower on Oak City Road has been officially withdrawn by the applicant. So it will not be, we're ready to take it off the agenda.
Ladies and gentlemen, during the proceedings of this meeting, each side, the opposition, the presentation for the application, the applicant themselves will have 15 minutes to present their case. They can use all of that time or reserve some time for rebuttal if need be, but it will be a total of 15 minutes. That will be both the applicant and anybody who wishes to speak on their behalf. If anybody is here to speak in opposition to a particular topic on the agenda, when that item is presented, there is a grand total of 15 minutes collectively. So if anybody wishes to speak in opposition or may have questions, comments, and concerns, you'll be asked to approach the podium, sign in, state your name, and address all your comments to the chair. Again, any questions from the Board of Commissioners, questions from the Planning Commission, and any other questions that may arise from those two bodies will not count against the time of either the applicant or those who are speaking in opposition who may have questions, comments, concerns, provided that there's a parley between the two bodies. At this time, the first applicant present.
Yes.
Please.
We're ready. Very good. 2014-06 SUP, application by Scott Bannock for a special use permit on approximately 7.241 acres, which is currently zoned B2. It's for a mini storage facility with RV, boat, and vehicle parking. Property is located in land lots 119, 120, and 169 in District 2, Section 3. It's on the east side of Bobo Road, north of Forest Court at Bannock Path. Address 23 Bannock Path and 51 Bannock Path. It's in Commission Post 1. Staff has had no calls or any noted opposition. Has recommended 8 stipulations if this approved, and one of those stipulations includes, it's just pretty much a reminder that it's still subject to the original zoning stipulations from when it was rezoned in 2007 to B2. And that copy is also attached. Applicant is present.
Applicant, please come around. Again, sign in, state your name, address your comments to the chair. Also, I remind each applicant that this is simply a recommending body, that your item will be forwarded to the Board of Commissioners, or in the case of the last item for the day, will be forwarded to the Hiram City Council for the final dispensation.
My name is Scott Bannock. I'm here to apply for a special use permit to change, I guess when we did the zoning in 2007, this was within the zoning, and now they're requiring a permit to do the mini storage. So basically that's what we're trying to do.
Are there any questions from the Planning Commission to the applicants? You do understand the 8 listed stipulations and you're in agreement with each of them?
Yeah, I do.
Board of Commissioners, any questions?
I have more staff questions.
Staff questions?
Yeah, you can wait for from asking my.
Dr. What we said, if we can go ahead and questions to staff.
get a copy of the previous zonings, but I assume it addressed the entrance off Bobo Road. That it would be, through plan review, all that stuff. Because I don't know, I didn't get a copy of it. I got one on the other, but not that one.
I'll leave that to Chris or Scott.
And of course, entrance and such, if everything's approved, would go through plan review and such. I know they're showing the proposed entrance and an existing driveway off Bannock Path right at Bobo Road. There's a current business, communications business, existing there currently. On the prior, I'm not sure I got the right one, yes. On the prior, they required owner developer shall install left turn lane on Bobo Road into proposed development. Owner developer shall donate sufficient right of way to provide for 100 feet along Bobo Road at 50 feet from the center line. And I believe that was the two transportation stipulations.
That's correct. I mean, assuming applicants acknowledging the original steps are still valid for this change.
I didn't hear you, what did you say?
If the applicant is acknowledging the original steps from the original zoning, which is a stipulation of the new application we have before us, correct?
It's
So
part of
agreeing to
the,
the 8 stipulations
Yes.
here, he's agreeing to the previous stipulations that were already part of the rezoning.
Yes. We're not modifying, just to clarify, we had commented that a left turn lane is needed. And they're not showing that today, but we would expect that will be provided and reviewed at a plan review.
Any other questions for staff from the Board of Commissioners? Planning Commission? Is there anybody else here that would wish to speak on behalf of this application? Is there anyone here that would wish to speak in opposition or may have questions, comments, or concerns regarding this application? This time I'll entertain a motion with regard to application 2014-06-SUP.
I make a motion to approve 2014-06-SUP with the 8 stipulations.
Have a motion to approve with the 8 listed stipulations by Ms. Philiol. I have a motion, a second, I got a second on that motion by Mr. Chambers. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0 and 1. Again, it's not final action on this application. You need to be at the Board of Commissioners meeting tonight at 7 o'clock. Mr. Robinson, when you're ready.
okay, the second application, 2014-07 SUP, application by Keith A. Butler for a special use permit on approximately 5.372 acres, which is also currently zone B2, for mini storage warehouses, RV, boat, and vehicle parking. Property is located in the land lot 734, District 2, Section 3. It's on the west side of Villarica Highway, also known as State Route 61. South of Russell Lane is in Commission Post 2. We have received one letter in your packet with some concerns. And this one also has 8 stipulations, plus acknowledging the prior stipulations from the B2 rezoning in 2000.
Yeah.
After he's present.
If you would, please come around. Sign in, state your name, address your comments to the chair. You have 15 minutes to present. Use all that time. Reserve some for the moment.
Hi, I'm Will Rakestraw. I'm representing Mr. Butler on this special use permit request for a mini storage warehouse and facility and outdoor parking. The property is currently zoned B2 under previous zoning stipulations, and we are here. We had accept and agree to the new stipulations. This was also a similar situation as the previous applicant, where under the original zoning, mini storage warehouse facilities were permitted, and now they fall under the special use permit. I'll reserve the rest of my time for any questions. Thank you.
And again, you've already stated that your client agrees to all of the listed stipulations, which include the previous stipulations from the previous zone.
Yes.
Are there any questions for the applicant from the planning commission?
I have one question, please.
Will?
I found one letter that I read from a concerned citizen, was fencing is, and normally when we see the storage unit, usually the whole parameter is fenced. Is that what Mr. Butler intends to do?
That's correct. We actually have the fence on our proposed plan. And the other question they had in the comments was about a 25-foot buffer. The zoning category already has a existing 40-foot buffer for a B2 next to a residential. So we're actually more than what I think they were asking for a 25-foot. So we're actually providing a 40. Thank you.
Hold up just a second. Commissioners, someone can hear?
Just, when y'all speak, if you'll make sure those microphones are on, it's really hard to hear you, Teresa.
Is that better?
I knew that complaint wasn't about me.
No.
Well, my question, Todd, was that the person that had concerns, it was about a fence. I felt like Mr. Butler would install a fence around the whole parameter, but just clarifying that. Now, Todd, I've got my microphone on. Can you still not hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Thank you.
And the answer was that they would have a fence around the entire perimeter, and the buffer would also be exceeded by what the request was, a 40-foot buffer.
What type of fence?
I'll have to ask them. That would be decided in the plan review process. I'm assuming chain link.
Are there any other questions for the applicant from the planning commission? Are there any questions from the?
I got one. Chris, does the county have a visual fence requirement?
That property is located on Highway Overlay District, and normally we would look at on the side that's visible to the highway, maybe a decorative type or something that's not that sticks out. Sometimes it may be, I've had some in the past that's actually did a nice, you want to call it chain link, black vinyl. That's,
But between the residential area and this, would there be a
there's no
solid
fence,
fence here?
there's no fence requirement in the zoning ordinance for the difference between a residential or commercial district. It's the green buffer. And to be honest about it, a 40-foot buffer and didn't have a fence, probably won't exceed the fence. And there is a stipulation for a 4-foot fence on the prior zoning on the south side of the property line, where at that time was the church property. It may still be, I know it's in the Memorial Park.
Are there any other questions from the applicant from the planning commission? Board of commissioners?
On special, Chris, on special use, you know, I didn't answer on the other one. But now, their maximum allowed square footage in parking, are they held to that in our special use zone?
We normally look and see what came through the zoning process during the plan review process. If it's a pretty significant change, then, of course, staff will review it, and the community development director could push it back to the board of commissioners to approve any significant change above and beyond.
What's significant?
It could- That, I wish I could give you.
So there's
We haven't had, I don't recall, but maybe one in the past has went back. Usually if it's a general concept and it meets the current ordinance and standards, we're pretty open-minded.
Any other questions from the board of commissioners, either for the applicant or the staff? Planning commission?
I had two quick questions. First of all, are any of these units can be used for offices for rent.
Mr. Baxter, can you answer that?
No.
And the second question is, we have a U-turn problem there, or illegal usage problem at the Dollar General now. Do you know if there's anything in the works to address that with this plan?
I'm assuming that's a state highway. I guess if there's a problem with it, we would address it here in plan review.
Any other questions, Board of Commissioners, Planning Commission? Is there anyone else here that would wish to speak on behalf of this application? Thank you, Mr. Christopher. At this time, is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to this application or may have questions, comments, or concerns? Yes, sir, if you would please come to the podium, sign in, state your name, and address your comments to the chair. You have 15 minutes, you can use all of that time. Save some for somebody else who wants to speak.
I just have a couple of comments. I live pretty close to this
Before you get
area.
started, sir, may I have your name?
Kenneth Coggins, Kenneth B. Coggins.
Thank you, sir.
And I live pretty close to this area, and I'm familiar with some of the problems that surround this area. Number one, you did basically touch on one of my issues there, and that's the sight distance problem there. You've got a right in and a right out at the Dollar General. You still have people try to make a left turn coming across Highway 61 now. If you're gonna have SUVs, or the big SUVs and the boats and the trailers and all that coming out, they're gonna have to come out right, on the right side. They can't come, make the turn left and come on out of there. Unless you or the state of Georgia requires an extended acceleration lane and deceleration lane. That's a very dangerous area right there. The sight distance is just totally a bad place for SUVs to be pulling out because of the speed that they could accelerate. In addition to that, the newest subdivision in that area is directly across the street from this, on the east side of Highway 61. Subdivision may be 5 or 6 years old. On the north side up there, that property is going to abut that subdivision right there. I don't understand we got a 40-foot right-of-way on it. In the event that you do approve this, I do want to ask that you leave that growth there. That is pretty well grown up in trees. I looked at it yesterday, and that would help them people in that neighborhood. I think it's a bad place to put that because of the access in and out of that. And even the subdivision coming on down, that's directly across the street, they got a right in and right out in that subdivision because of the sight distance in there. I ain't, 100% opposed to it, but I think that you should look at the danger that's involved in the access there, and the north side of that should be, them people in that subdivision should be protected more than just with a graded 40-foot buffer. They shouldn't remove the overgrowth, the undergrowth there, what you want to call it, on that back side.
And that is on the, looking at the survey that you're seeing there, that is on the east side of 61, north of the development that we're talking about.
That would be, the north would be the top of that
Correct.
development up there, and the east is gonna be directly across the street from
To the left, yes.
Dollar General. Surely we could have a privacy fence or something there. I don't know what the lighting is gonna be there, but I would assume there's gonna be some lighting. I do know that we had a major problem with one of the same type facilities over here on Highway 92 that the residents now, due to runoff of that much paved stuff there, that the lower part of that subdivision there is getting flooded. So I don't know whether you have to have a retention pond on that. There's a lot of water gonna come off of that acreage there once it's paved. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else that would wish to speak in opposition or may have questions, comments, or concerns regarding this application? Hearing none, I'll go back to the questions that were brought up. This site distance issue with the acceleration lane. Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, would that be addressed in plan review?
That's correct, but as the applicant's rep mentioned before, this is a state route. It won't be our job to absolutely require anything, except to bring attention to it and to address that through the state as a liaison. There are, serious traffic issues on the whole corridor. It's not just Dollar General, it's the lack of turn lanes all through that corridor, a lot of crash problems. And we'll just have to discuss that with the state, see what can be done to mitigate some of those concerns. It's a 55-mile-an-hour road in this area. People just stop suddenly, and I've observed many crashes myself. So that's a real concern. We're going to do our best to make sure the applicant's development addresses those during the plan review process with the state.
Engineering design, and just to address that question with you, Mr. Goggins. Engineering design of the site is typically left to the technical expertise of the planning commission or the plan review staff, as they are engineers that will look at it, they'll make a recommendation. And again, as Mr. Green said, it will probably be a conversation that will be recommended to them and also recommended to the state, or at least see what the state would require for a turn lane or a acceleration lane or deceleration lane. The growth on the north side as far as the non-disturbance buffer, Chris or Mr. Rexroth, either one of y'all want to address that?
Well, the site on the north property lines, the west property line, and the south property line join residential property, and therefore a 40-foot buffer. We prefer that it stay undisturbed, and that might be a more feasible thing that they don't get into. If they happen to get into it with some grading, then it would have to be replanted. And so the idea is to keep a screen around the entire property where it's residential.
So the screening buffer,
Yes.
and that is already a part of the agreements.
That 40-foot buffer is a requirement of the zoning district itself,
Thank you.
or the zoning ordinance within the type of district.
Before we move on to any other questions, either for staff or the applicant, from the planning commission or the board of commissioners?
I would like to address Mr. Rakestraw again about, do you intend to leave that 40-foot of under road and intact as it is now? Would there be any reason you would have to go in here and take down part of it, or is that just part of your?
At this point, we're not anticipating having to disturb any of the buffer. Grading would, until we can do a set of construction plans to see, what the best use of the site would be. But at this point, we don't really know until we actually do a set of construction plans. We're not anticipating having to do it.
But you are understanding that the screening part of the buffer, that there will be a requirement for there to be a screening buffer.
Right, it'll be a
That would
40-foot
be used
vegetated
for the neighborhood
buffer.
residential properties.
That's correct. It'll be a 40-foot vegetated buffer to screen any warehouses, mini warehouses, or vehicles that are parked. And on another note, Mr. Chicago was talking about the pond, there's an existing detention pond that's already on site that was designed to handle the entire project on the original construction plans when Dollar General previously built there.
Where is that located at on that map? The lower
The
part?
whole south
South side?
That's correct.
And that's gonna remain, huh?
Yes, sir. That was engineered prior to handle the entire site.
And that's also another aspect that will be covered under the plan review activities of the county. They would actually go before them with their design, their proposed design, to seek approval that, the detention pond will meet the need of the development. Any other questions for the applicant, Board of Commissioners, Planning Commission? At this time, I'll entertain a motion with regard to application 2014-07-SUP. I have a motion to approve from Mr. Stokes. Is that with the 8 listed stipulations, Mr. Stokes? With the 8 listed stipulations? Is there a second? Second. I have a second from Mr. Farr. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0-1. Again, this application will be forwarded to the Board of Commissioners for the next meeting at 7, and we'll need to have the applicant or the applicant's representative present.
Next application, 2014-05Z, application by Terry Decker to rezone approximately .74 acres from R2 Suburban Residential Zoning District to Neighborhood Business District for small retail uses. Property is located in land lot 753, District 3, Section 3. It's on the west side of Dallas-Ackworth Highway, south of Dallas-Ackworth Extension. Address is 8485 Dallas-Ackworth Highway. It's in Commission Post 4. And had one call with questions, and staff has recommended approval with 13 printed stipulations. And applicant is present.
The applicant, please come around. Sign in, state your name, and address your comments to the chair. While you're signing in, I'll take this moment just to reiterate, please direct all your comments. If you're up here at this podium, or if you're in the audience wishing to speak, you need to be at this podium. Address your comments to the chair, and I will either relay those or try to get those answered or take note of them.
How are you doing? My name is Terry Decker, and I am wanting to get this zone commercial, just a neighborhood business from residential. It was a business for some 30 or 40 years prior to my purchasing it, and but the applicants, from my understanding, never got a business license. So we purchased the property knowing it was business. We have a commercial loan on the property and have yet to be able to get it zoned neighborhood business. This time I'm asking that you take my consideration to make this neighborhood business.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. Is there any questions for the applicant from the Planning Commission?
At this time, most everything in that area is being zoned
That's
and
correct.
operating as commercial. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
You are aware of the 13 listed stipulations and you're in agreement with each one?
I am.
Any other questions from the Planning Commission to the applicant? Board of Commissioners?
So you're wanting to know, or you want to be able to use, as I understand the request, to use the existing block building, but the other two you will not be able to use as commercial because, unless you get a variance on their setback.
That is correct.
Okay. What's your intended use, or you're just trying to get it zoned so you can,
I have
can't
some-
use it for what you bought it for? which is
Right, I'd like to
$100.
intend to use it what it was originally purchased for. I do have several people who are interested in it. One was, they're both contained within the neighborhood businesses.
Any other questions from the Board of Commissioners? Planning Commission? Sir, at this time, if you'll have a seat. See if there's anybody else here that would wish to speak on behalf of this application. Is there anyone here that would wish to speak in opposition to this application or may have questions, comments, or concerns? I'll entertain a motion on application 2014-05-Z.
Make a motion to approve 2014-05-C with 13 stipulations.
Have a motion to approve with the 13 printed stipulations by Ms. Philioff. Have a second from Mr. Hornback. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0-1. Again, application will be forwarded to tonight's meeting with the Board of Commissioners. You will need to be there.
Yes, sir.
You ready?
Okay. Next application, 2014-06Z, application by Cecil Lawrence to rezone approximately 4.54 acres from R2 Suburban Residential District to NB Neighborhood Business District for a funeral home. Property is located in land lots 998, 999, and 1019, District 2, Section 3, east side of Billerica Highway, also known as State Route 61. North side of Lindsay Lake Road, 4627 Billerica Highway, 58 Mike Path, 38 Mike Path, 120 Lawrence Path, or address of property. It's in Commission Post 3. Staff has received no opposition, and staff has recommended approval with 15 printed stipulations. And that applicant is present.
Captain, please come around. If you would, please sign in, state your name, and address all your comments to the chair.
Good afternoon, I'm Dale Lawrence, I'm here to represent the Lawrence Group. Basically, it's what the application says, we'd like to put in a funeral home because we believe it's another need in this community. And also, it would be a definite improvement from what we're using the property for now.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Are you aware of all the printed stipulations? Just to confirm, 15 of them?
Yes, sir.
And you're in agreement with all 15?
Yes.
Are there any questions from the planning commission for the applicant?
It's the only one I would have, is Mr. Morris. Will we see another problem with the turn lanes and everything on 61 there that's been investigated?
Can I speak on that?
Just come up, state your name, please. And again, this is a question being addressed to the applicant, or the applicant represents. This time is not counted against your time.
Currently, on the proposed plan, we're showing a entrance coming in off of Lindsay Lake Road as well as on State Route 61. Until we go to the plan review process with the state of Georgia, we're really not sure what their requirements may be. They could require a left turn lane. That will have to be addressed during plan review. And if it turns out that, it makes more sense to come in off of Lindsay Lake Road, it's a better intersection, we may look at that as well, and not put an entrance in onto 61, depending on what the state's comments are or what their requirements will be.
So to do that on Lindsay Lake, then there would not have to be a need for U-turns on 61?
That's correct. It
Okay.
use an existing intersection that we will most likely address improvements on during the plan review process in order to get it up to, satisfactory to the county DOT. That would be a county road, whereas 61 is a state route. So,
Any other questions for the applicant from the planning commission? Board of Commissioners?
Of course, you're showing where the funeral home sits, but the property right adjacent to Lindsay Lake Road, which you're zoning B2, but I assume that would be held as an out partial expansion. What's the purpose of that section?
At this point, it could be a additional retail space or, depending on what requirements we have to do for Lindsay Lake Road, improvements we have to make on it, it could be, used for that as well.
While you're there, now, as I see the layout, the actual proposed detention pond is not on the partial, and I know he owns all over around it, but it's not on the partial that's being zoned, correct?
That is correct. We're The topo, we've got some rough topo, and the obvious location, or most obvious location of the site is in that low point. You can see the draw to catch any future runoff that may come in any future development that may exist down the road. So we're kind
So
of
it
planning for
may,
long
you're
term.
kind of planning that,
Right.
that property in the middle could be used for something.
Right.
Whereas this is a bad area, so put the drainage back.
That is correct.
Any other questions from the board of commissioners? Planning commission? Thank you. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak on behalf of this application? Anyone here wishing to speak in opposition to this application or may have questions, comments, concerns? This time, I'll entertain a motion for application 2014-06-Z.
I make a motion to approve 2014-06-Z with 15 stipulations.
A motion to approve with the 15 printed stipulations by Ms. Filial. Have a second from Mr. Stokes. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0, 1. Again, if application will be forwarded to tonight's meeting of the Board of Commissioners. You will need to be there or your representative. Mr. Robbins?
Final applications, City of Hiram, application 2014-02, TA, City of Hiram. Application by Ron Chris for a text amendment to change the Hiram zoning ordinance, Article 8, Section P2, in the light industrial district to add and include the following use. Hiram zoning ordinance, Article 8, Section P, I1 light industrial district, 2 permitted uses. This would fall under the next one down, which would be YY. Inert transfer station, a fully enclosed facility used for private use to transfer materials received and are limited to rock, wood, shingles, concrete, bricks, blocks, paper, cardboard, and wallboard. Absolutely no household trash or anything that would contain asbestos or hazardous material, and petroleum products. All plastic and vinyl products will be allowed. A special use permit will be required to separate any and all goods outside of an enclosed facility or area. And again, this is for a text amendment for the City of Hiram zoning ordinance. And when I say that, because the applicant may have a use intended for a light industrial, a specific area in Hiram. A text amendment is not for a specific location. It changes the rules for any light industrial zoned area in the city limits of Hiram, which I don't know if you can see it well, but anything's got a blue, it's kind of this little blue. Those are what we show as zone light industrial in Hiram, and what this means is that any text amendment to the light industrial would impact all these different properties, not a specific property.
Which site is the site that, Mr. Chris, I'm just trying to get the map.
And just to clarify a couple of things to the map before you move it, Chris, if you would raise it back up just a bit. The 3 dots to the, I guess to the left of the screen, the northernmost one on the edge there is now Georgia DOT right of way. It doesn't exist anymore. And then the 2 dots in the large, I guess, swoop right there where the railroad is, that is railroad property. That is not property that has at least traditionally been for sale or used by any other entity other than Norfolk Southern today.
That's correct. And also, just for history, the 2 dots in the railroad right of way over to this one and the Duncan Circle was in a part of the original Paulding County zoning in 1969. applicant is present.
Before we get started, again, I want to reiterate that the applicant, even though this is not case-specific to any particular property, has 15 minutes to present their application. They can use all of that time or reserve some of it for rebuttal. Any comments that may be made, or questions that may be asked during the opposition or question comments period. That is also cumulative with anybody else who would wish to speak on behalf of the application. It is a grand total of 15 minutes. Anybody wishing to speak in opposition to the application, again, for a text amendment, this is not a rezoning, for the text amendment, will also have an accumulative time of 15 minutes. If there are many people wishing to speak, it is advisable to have 1 or 2 people to represent the group. You can line up down the hall if you wish to speak in opposition, and we will take as many of you as we can. If some of them are more long-winded than others, it may eat into the time, but it will be a grand total of 15 minutes. So with that understanding, before we move forward, I don't want to catch anybody by surprise. At this time, if the applicant, please come around and present your application. Sign in, state your name, and address your comments to the chair.
Mr. Chairman, just want to know, we have received over a dozen emails, letters in opposition, and several comments.
Even though that this is not the legal public hearing for the city of Hiram, this is a public hearing format required under the Hiram zoning ordinance. This will be forwarded to the Hiram City Council at their next scheduled regular session for the legal public hearing. So this is not the final step. This is actually like the step before the final step to be taken, and then a vote will be taken by the council, or action will be taken to determine if the council would like to have it. We do have representation among you that are from the Hiram administration, and we also have a seated member here of our planning commission that is a representative at the Hiram Council.
Yes, my name is Ron Christ, and I'm here for the text amendment to change Article 8 to light industrial for the fully enclosed transfer station out there in Metro Circle. Basically, what we do is just really simple. We got a roll-off container. We put shingles in, and basically what we do is we bring them containers back to our facility. And we take those use that facility to transport those shingles into a larger container to a recycling center. And that's pretty much it. I mean, everything is indoors, on the property. If I take a guess, I guess there's 15 to 16 foot doors that roll up. 5 o'clock in the evening, they close. Absolutely nothing outside. Everything is indoors. And at the time, I guess they built the questions.
You would hold on just a minute. Just to make sure that we understand, the description that you're giving is case specific to your property. You understand that the text amendment that you are asking for would implicate all properties that are zoned I-1 in the city of Hiram. You realize that from the text amendment request, that's what it's about. It's not necessarily specific to that piece of property.
Correct.
It can get a little confusing.
Yes, it does.
But this would actually, apply to all light industrial.
Correct.
If the text amendment is allowed by the Hiram Council.
Okay. I agree with that.
Are there any questions for the applicant from the planning commission?
Question, please. Mr. Chris, I think I have asked you this before, but you rent some of these dumpsters. You take them out to construction sites for them to put their debris in, and that is what you would want to be bringing back. I know that you would give them specific instructions not to put certain materials. But my concern is, having worked in new construction so many years, I am very well aware of what the workers on those job sites can put in those dumpsters. And I don't know how you would possibly police what is in those dumpsters when you bring them back to this facility. Another question, another concern I have is, you keep talking about shingles. Well, I had to educate myself through Google about NERC, what the NERC means and everything. Well, I do know that older shingles, which a lot of these things in this dumpster would be older products, and at that time, they were made with asbestos. And you start disturbing those by breaking and cracking and things like that, then that does release the asbestos into the air.
Absolutely, it does.
And that is, and like I said, that and the fact, I don't know how you would ever know what you would be bringing back to that site. And I've seen things that I didn't necessarily want to see, but I do know those construction workers are after anything else, and they're so huge, how could you know what's in the bottom of those dumpsters, what you may encounter? I think my other question for you is, when you bought this property in light industrial, did you find out that transfer stations nowhere in the county or the city light industrial zoning, do they allow transfer stations? That would have to have been, I think, it could possibly be a heavy industrial, but not light industrial. Did you check into that before you bought this piece of property?
No, ma'am, when I bought the property, I had no intentions of even doing this. Basically, I own a roll-off container service, and basically what we do is we rent these containers out, and we only have 15 to 20 of them. It ain't like I got 100 to 50. So basically what we do is we pick and choose our customers. We don't take them out on construction sites as far as new building. Everything we do is already existing. I'll give you an example. Most of my clients are roofers. In other words, if one of my clients rent a container and it's a roofing job, most shingles are about 20, 25 years old. I've been doing it since 1994, and putting an asbestos shingle in a box and getting caught taking that roof off, there's more damage there than it ever would be making it to my box. I also have the privilege of actually owning a roofing company, and if you call me out and immediately I see that you got asbestos on your roof, which I haven't, I can't even remember the last time that's happened. And we've been doing this quite a while. But if the incident ever did come, I would just tell you straight up I couldn't do it because of the permits and the law and the fines that you would have to pay to even make it that far to be able to touch that roof. But honestly, I don't even remember having the privilege of doing all this for such a long time. Asbestos is you hear commercials on television all the time, and it's 1970s stuff, 80s, or 60s and 50s.
I think it was in the early 80s that they quit using so much asbestos. But like I said, on a job site, you don't know, there may be, my house was built in the 60s, it's been layered over one or two times. But if I hired someone to go to the flow itself, some of those shingles would probably be asbestos, if you go down that far. Wall boards, items like that, at one time were much asbestos. And also, in my reviewing or trying to read about inert, even though I understand what that is now, there are circumstances under the right conditions that gases can be released that would counteract with the inert or counter with the inert items in order to make them, emit gases that would not be safe.
I'm not clear.
Well, I have read that sometimes when you have, inert items and, like I said, you're bringing these dumpsters in without any knowledge of what is inside, what is at the bottom. You don't know that there's not no paint cans, anything that they rented this dumpster, this strip, they're going to use it to their advantage. And, it's sad to say, but so many of them would say, well, hey, I've paid for this, I'm going to listen to it. And at that time, if there is certain gases in those products that they throw in there, it can make some of these inert items become, they can mix with them and make it become a dangerous situation.
Honestly, I've never encountered, not every container is going to be coming back. I think a lot of confusion. Not every container that we have out in the field is going to be coming back to this facility. We have accounts set up from Fairburn to Smyrna, on out to Marietta, and not every container is going to be coming back. Basically, what I'm after, it's just the asphalt shingle. That's basically what I'm after. To take it from like I said, the little container over to the big container to go to the recycling center out in Hampton. That's basically what I'm after. You know, I got an asphalt company right next door to me, Able Asphalt. And if you know anything about Able Asphalt, they're huge. And right in their backyard, there's asphalt there all the time. That's basically a lot of that is a recycled asphalt. And unfortunately, right now, Georgia's not accepting that. But the facility that we're trying to take it to, we're trying to get to where Georgia is taking it as the asphalt shingle is recycled. But the facility that we take it to is actually in Hampton, and they actually take it to Alabama. And it's gone from 5%, I think 7% going into the roads. And that's basically bulk of what we're after is that shingle.
If we were to approve having a transfer station, what is your thoughts on, it would not only apply to you, but every light industrial area in the county and the city of Hiram and Dallas could absolutely have a transfer station down here?
Just to correct, that would only apply within the city limits of Hiram for this particular case.
Sorry, city limits of Hiram in this particular case, I'm sorry to Chris.
I mean, honestly, as long, I have a facility that's 6,000 square foot facility. And in that facility, I also have a mechanic shop where we work on our own cars. So this is going to be going on in a facility where we actually put brakes, change oil, stuff like that in this facility, okay? And as far as the household trash that quote unquote, we don't even use our own. We've got, you know, I live in the city of Hiram. Most people don't even realize I live in the city. I don't even take my personal trash to one of our roll-off containers. My office on 92, which ain't really got nothing to do with it, Chris Roofing, the city of Hiram supplies me trash for that. So everything is set in place to look at what we're doing and protect the people who work for the company. I mean, I'm not saying this is the perfect world, but what I am saying is I've got, you know, people actually working in this facility already that will be coming in. It's one container at a time. Clean it up, put it into the trailer. When that trailer's full, we take it. There's nothing going to be laying around. There's nothing going to be sitting around. It's not a process to where there's just going to be layers and layers of product anywhere. It's put in a facility, cleaned up, put into the box, and one at a time until it's hauled off. That's the reason why, you know, and you said it's open to anybody in the city of Hiram, the amendment. I'm not even opposed to that if they do it up under the rules that y'all set.
Well, what I was speaking of was transfer station.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, that would be in the city of Hiram, you know, an all light industrial, and the transfer station is not. But I thank you for your time.
Are there any other questions from the planning commission for the applicant? Again, it's very easy to speak case specific to the applicant and the property that he owns in the industrial or the existing industrial park. The question before the planning commission is this recommending body is going to send a recommendation to the Hiram City Council as to whether or not it believes that it is a good practice for us to add a definition and a use to an existing zoning category, light industrial, that would contain the definition for what is termed a inert transfer station. That means that it would be brought in and then shipped out on a dumping site, but still, it would be an inert transfer station. Case specific to Mr. Christ, setting that aside, would this be a good use of property in any light industrial property in that industrial complex there, or in any other of the properties that are currently zoned light industrial? So, once again, I'll ask, are there any other questions for the applicant? From the
Can I
planning
ask a
commission?
question?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Just to clarify, this is really a Chris, not Chris. This is a Chris Robinson question, not a Chris question, but a Chris question. In the text amendment you wrote up, okay, and gave in our package, it says for a private use to transfer material. What does that mean?
What is in the packet as a requirement of the
Mr.
text?
Robinson, would you please step to the mic?
Yeah, I mean, under staff recommendations, what I'm reading is, I'm assuming that is the proposed text amendment. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So what is when it says a fully enclosed facility, I get that, used for private use, what does that mean?
Okay. On a text amendment, the actual applicant is presenting what he's,
But what does private use mean? Does that mean that,
my understanding, that would be for his company only.
so in other words, that his containers, no one else could bring stuff?
Would be open to the public to come in and bring another roofing
The
agency.
stuff he collected
To bring.
in whatever manner?
Yeah, it's definitely 100% private, nobody else can allow it.
Are there any other questions from the Board of Commissioners?
I've got one.
Mr. Parnell?
What is a inert transfer station? What? Because I've done a little bit of studying up on it, so
Basically, in order to transportation, it's just basically, it's wood, like a 2x4, like you go to Home Depot and buy. It's a shingle that you may go to Home Depot and buy. Just say block. All this stuff you can buy at Home Depot. Basically, that's an inert transportation. It's no, I can't take gas, fuel tanks. I mean, I don't even take refrigerators unless you break the screen. No tires, no paint cans. That's what, that does not include in their transportation, transportation, transfer station.
I believe the intent, Mr. Parnell, and again, Mr. Chris, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but the intent is to have similar to an inert landfill, but with a mobile aspect where it's being brought in and then taken out. There's a provision within the county zoning ordinance and within the city's zoning ordinance that allows for landfills, in I-2, I believe is what it is. There is no provision in either the county's zoning ordinance nor the city's zoning ordinance, and I make that reference because for the longest time, the city of Hiram simply adopted by reference Hawley County zoning ordinance. But there is no provision in the current zoning ordinance that allows for a transfer station of any type, much less be it inert or household sanitation type.
well, and the reason I'm asking you this, Ron, is because I've had citizens email and then make some phone calls to us. Of course, we've explained to them that it goes before the planning and zoning board, and then it goes to the city of Hiram for their recommendation up or down. So I went and got a Rules of Georgia Department of Natural Resources Environmental Protection Division information. And from what I can find, what you're asking, an inert transfer station really doesn't exist. Now, I may be wrong, so I don't want everybody to think, well, I'm saying this and he's right. I'll admit if I'm wrong, but according to what I can tell here, there's really no such thing as an inert transfer station. And shingles doesn't fall underneath that. It's things like, let's see here, stumps, brush, concrete, cured asphalt. Okay, Tommy's agreeing here. But shingles doesn't fall underneath that. And basically what you're asking for, an inert transfer station, according to what I can find here in the information that I've got, which would be glad for you to take a look at, it would be more like a, give me just a second. To do what you're doing is it's not just inert, it's also more like a recycling, where you're gonna recycle something and then take it off, which is what you said, take the shingles somewhere else to recycle for, I would imagine, some money. naturally, you're not doing it for free. And so it would be more like I think they call it a MRF, a material recovery facility. So it's kind of a combination of both. Because what you're describing inert is not all inert, and then those shingles would be material recovery facility, is basically where you're gonna have to go through those dumpsters and sort that out, and then take the 10 dumpsters of piled up shingles that you've got and move them to where it is you're moving them to get that. Now, I'm not well educated in this, but because of citizens calling up and asking questions, my answer's been, you know what, I'm not sure, I'll get back with you. So I went and got some information here, but according to what you've got down on this application, an inert transfer station, there's not such thing as that, according to what I see. And I'll be the first to admit it if I'm wrong.
I mean, from what I understood, the Antwerp transfer station was researched, and that's where we come up with that, to be honest with you.
Okay.
And as far as you said, you know, as far as you getting paid to do this, I'm not getting down for it.
No, I just meant your whole, you're doing this to either save money
Yes.
with your company, and if you're recycling shingles, ultimately, somebody's gonna give you something on the other end, you're hoping to.
No, honestly, what's going on is it's basically a shingle transfer station is what it is. And basically, we don't get paid on the other end. We actually pay them to transport it to Alabama. And it's so much per ton to do that. We actually researched, and I'll probably need some help with this, but we actually researched the Antwerp transfer station, and that's where this came from. Because originally, I guess back in October, when I first started this back in October, we were going to do a recycling center right there. And basically, I was never had the intent, because the property, what most people understand, it's only 3 acres and a 6,000 square foot building. So, and to me, a dump site, in my mind, a dump site means you're going to dump in the yard and bury it. Because I've been doing this for so long that is a waste facility. It's a dump site. And we've actually researched, from what I'm gathering, we actually researched the Antwerp transfer station to accept what we're talking about here. And I will have to take it further and look at what you're talking about, because that's what we had found when we were going through all this. And but there was a letter that went out to the city that saying we were opening a dump site. I wasn't privileged to it, even though I live in the city, but there was a letter that went out, and that's what started the emails and the phone calls and stuff like that to you guys. That none of it on it's true, not a word of it. But as far as the Antwerp transfer station, we'll definitely have to do research on that to find out that's for sure what we're doing. But from what I can tell, that's what we had found, and that's what we're doing.
Are there any other questions from the Board of Commissioners? Questions from the Planning Commission? Thank you very much. Is there anyone else here wishing, there is time still remaining on the clock for anybody who would wish to speak on behalf of this application for a text amendment? Is there anyone wishing to do so? Hearing none, is there anyone here that would wish to speak in opposition or may have questions, comments, or concerns regarding the application for a text amendment to the Hiram zoning code? If you would, please come around to the podium, sign in, state your name, address your comments to the chair. And if there are more than two, please just line up and went down the wall back to the back of the room, please.
My name is Debbie Church. I live on Powder Springs Street in Hiram. Lived in Hiram approximately 13 years. I bought my home 7 years ago on Powder Springs Street to raise my children. So I have lived there for 13 years. I'm not a recent transplant into the area. I have a vested interest in the area. In In my opinion, a transfer station is just a politically correct term for a waste site. The word transfer station was a word that was invented approximately 20 years ago. Prior to then, it didn't exist. Other words with a similar meaning, you can look it up, dump site, waste site, whatever you want to call it. It is a waste site, dump site. The material may not stay there for as long a period of time, but waste is going to come from outside the area, be brought into our community. Mr. Chris has been on the record to say that he does business all over the southeast. They are affiliated with the Greater Atlanta Apartment Association, which represents over 350,000 apartments in the metro area. They are going to bring waste far and wide into our community, truck it in, dump it, sort it, store it, reload it, and ship it out to our community. The area is surrounded by neighbors. The area backs right up to an elementary school. The noise, the dust, the pollution that this is going to cause, the effects of it we will not know for years. But I'm an insurance agent, and I can tell you that there are pollution exclusions in this type of business for a reason. Because there's no way to control what goes in a dumpster. Let's see, I'm trying to be quick about this because I don't want to take up other people's time as well. Mr. Chris says he does live in the area now. He claims to be a recent transplant from Cobb County. When Mr. Chris ran back in 2012, or attempted to run for the school board, he stated he lived on Dallas Street in Hiram. It was determined that was not the case. That property was owned by Barbara Chastain. He now claims to live on Center Street in Hiram, and public record says that property is also owned by Barbara Chastain.
If you would, please, I would like to keep the comments directly associated with the text amendment question, not the character of the person.
No, I question if he does have residence in the city.
Okay.
Because the properties that he's lived at are owned by someone else, according to the Paulding County Tax Assessor's Office as of this morning.
This parlay doesn't count against your time, but just so you know, there may be no other, we may be able to ask him, do you live in the city of Hiram?
Well, he may,
Maybe
yeah,
yes,
okay,
and that would be
okay.
as far as we take it today.
I think he was asked that question back in 2012 as well. I think that's pretty much it. Asphalt shingles are 90% petroleum byproducts. His application says all he basically addressed was shingles. He didn't address anything else on here. But I feel confident that this is only the beginning of a huge blight on the city of Hiram, and that it will affect the citizens far beyond. We'll let them know. We're going to lose our property values. Our tax base is going to decline because property values are going to go down. People are not going to want to buy in the area. People are not going to want to start businesses in the area. And just because someone wants a transfer station doesn't mean it should be a free-for-all for every other business in light industrial to open a transfer station. And I would ask you to do what's right for the community, not to do what's right for one individual. Thank you.
Thank you. If you would, please sign in, state your name, and address your comments to the chair.
My name is Joe Turner. I have been a resident in Hiram since 1946. I live on Rosedale Drive, which is about 300 yards from the property that Mr. Chris is going to use. The problem with the transfer is the handling of the material, the movement of the material. I was raised in a house that my father built in 1946, and a year ago it took a tree in the top of the house. They had to rebuild the roof and take off what was there. When they finished, and the contractor's immediate job was to, as quickly as possible, get this thing dried out, finished, and cleaned up. And they hauled off all the material. Then they told me that there was 3 layers of roofing on the house. I'm sure the bottom layer was the original layer, manufactured in 1946. For certain, there had to be asbestos in that roofing. He said it came apart in pieces about the size of a silver dollar. So handling that material is the type of things that this facility is talking about. It's asbestos, and there's no way you can contain it. It's airborne. And there are too many residents in addition to myself, as well as the school that is endangered by this type of material to be handled in that area. I would appreciate it if you people would not only consider not passing this, but anywhere in this county, not allowing that type of stuff to be handled and disturb our pure air. Thank you.
My name's Lee Graham, been a resident here for 62 years. My mother, dad, brother, sister, we all live there. I'm not for rezoning Hiram with this zoning for anybody because there's more than one parcel. And the county and the city of Hiram, I don't even think they got the staff to monitor all of this. But it's right next to a beautiful Hiram Elementary School where we have children. The building is built on flood land. It was filled in. I got a plat of it. It wasn't even supposed to be a building built there. The retention pond is gone. It's filled in with big rocks, and dirt and stuff from the whole thing. And the retention pond is supposed to stay as long as the facilities, the park is there. And like I say, I think it would depreciate property values, and I'm not for rezoning it at all, not for Ron Crist or anybody, not even the other zones. So that's why I stand on that. I appreciate all you do for us. Thank you.
Thank you. There's about 8 minutes remaining.
My name is Earlene Graham. I live in the city of Hiram, and I know a lot of these people up here have seen me before, as you have. But I can't imagine anybody that lives in the city of Hiram is going to want this type of transfer station. One, because when he talks about transferring from a small container to a larger container, what happens to that that's not good enough? Where's it going to go? I mean, are they going to haul it somewhere else? That means more trucks on our roads, which we've repaved, and they're looking really good now, and we want to keep them that way. We've got a school that, I know everyone else has already commented on the air quality and that type of thing. I just hope and pray that you will not pass this, and I appreciate your time.
Good afternoon. My name is Kenneth Strickland. I've been a resident of Hiram on Oak Street for 53 years. The concerns I have is some sort of residual damage that will result from the handling of material that could contain hazardous material. I don't think a business of this type should be within a residential area of Hiram. I'm also concerned because there is a state-of-the-art school that was built. It's already been mentioned several times, but according to the school officials, they are anticipating an increase up to 1,200 students this next year. And I'm concerned about that. The traffic situation in and around Hiram is horrendous and has been for some time. Any additional traffic in the transport to and from that facility is just going to further complicate what is a very, very poor situation. Also, if there's this would appear to me to involve heavy equipment in the transportation of this. I believe that the roads, the infrastructure of our inter-community roads there in Ireland would suffer greatly from this. So I am opposed to it. And I hope that it will not be approved.
Is there still enough time for me to speak? I don't want to run this over.
There's approximately 5 minutes remaining, so yes, ma'am.
My name is Trini Cole, and since 1973, I've lived one door down from this proposed site, and I wouldn't move for anything, not even this. But I'm concerned about the noise. All my other issues have already been addressed, and I hardly support everything that's been said from the residents that oppose this. But the noise from this, that's not been mentioned, but this has to be noisy when you're banging and clanging the big dumpsters around. That bothers me for me. Of course, it bothers me for the school and the other residents. And I have to wonder about the other business owners in this light industrial park, how this is going to affect them. How do they feel? I don't think I'd want a waste transfer station in the business park where I have my little business. But I can see no profit from this except for one man. But it's very detrimental to the city, the residents, the homeowners, the school children, the community. Even in the county, if I was considering moving into this county, I would want to see how you handle this kind of thing, if you would allow this. And certainly when it goes to the city council, I would want to know how the city council members were protecting me. Monitoring this would be just like monitoring the traffic out there on Highway 278. It's going to take an army. You know what I mean? I mean, this, you open the door to this, and where's it going to stop? So I see all this blue area up here, and those are red flags. When you open the door to this, and with all respect for Mr. Chris, you know, I'm sure that he believes in what he's doing. I hope he does. But he can't monitor this. And like I said, I want to support my family, but I hope and pray I'll never do it to the detriment of a community, a city, children, the quality of life that this is going to affect is monumental. So I hope and pray that y'all will vote your conscience and that you'll have wisdom. Thank you for standing in the gap for us. I wouldn't sit up there for all the tea and shine, but I appreciate your doing that.
Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in opposition? There's about 3 minutes remaining. Or may have questions, comments, or concerns. Please come around, sign in, state your name, and address your comments to the chair.
My name is Gina Backlany. I'm a parent and PTA president and volunteer in our school at Hiram Elementary. I have nothing against Mr. Christ or his family. They put a new roof on our home a couple years ago. They did a great job. My concern is for the students and the kids. This does butt up to the property of our school. I just hope that there's nothing that would be bad, like an explosion or anything like that, because it is a petroleum-based shingle, that type of thing. I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood it's backing up to an elementary school. Our kids, I have 3 kids. My youngest one hasn't gone through there yet. We have families there, and Hiram Elementary is a really big family. We are a big part of this community. And like the young man, or the older man said, the next couple of years, yeah, we're going to grow. We're going to grow a lot. And so we just want to make sure that it is safe for our kids and that, you know, nothing bad does happen.
I'm going to apologize to you. I did catch that you were with PTA, but I did not catch your name. Ma'am.
Oh.
Please restate that.
Gina Backlany.
Thank you very much. We do have 1 minute remaining according to my clock. If there's anybody else who wishes to speak in opposition or may have questions, comments, or concerns. Hearing none, I'll go back to the applicant. If you would like to take any more of the 15 minutes that you had allotted, you may come around and address. Again, I would ask you to keep your comments pertaining to the application as much as possible, as well as a lot of information that was brought out, a lot of questions being asked. You have about 14 minutes, 13 minutes.
I won't take but a minute, but I do, from the bottom of my heart, for everybody here. Takes a lot for me to do it, but from the bottom of my heart, I want to apologize to everybody in the room. When I first bought the building on Duncan Circle, I bought a 2-year-old bank-owned building. I didn't do nothing to raise the value of the property. I I bought a house on Center Street. I do live in the city. I bought a house on the Center Street that was on the market for 3 years. That paid top dollar for it. That didn't do nothing but raise the value of the property in the area. I bought another building on 92 that didn't do nothing but raise the value of the property. So when I tell you I'm apologizing for how I approached what I'm trying to get done. Whether it gets approved or not, like I agree with what she said, I wouldn't want to be on that stand for nothing in the world. But whether it gets approved or not, I would hope, not me, but I got 60 plus employees working at Chris Roofing itself, statewide. I would hope that Chris Roofing has done enough to the public and in the county to know that we wouldn't do anything to hurt this county. I would hope that things that's been done in this county, schools, we gave enclosed trailers to schools, we support cheerleaders, football teams. And at this point, whether it gets approved or not, I just want to make sure that I do an apology to make sure that I want to make sure that nobody in this room thinks for 1 second that this company, not me, but this company has done anything to try to harm anybody except try to help the community. And whether this gets approved or not, my intentions was never to spread asbestos across Howard. I've got a son, and I've got nephews, I've got nieces, I've got tons of parents that's called me from that school because of this PTA meeting. I had 35 parents in my house right when school left out. Most of them went to Howard Elementary. So whether you approve it or not, I just want to make sure that when we leave this room, I want to make sure that nobody in this room, not a single soul, thinks for 1 second that nobody at Chris Roofing, I-Haul Incorporated, or anything else that we do that's trying to harm this community other than just trying to build it up and make it better. And that's really all I have to say, and I really appreciate your time.
Is there anybody else who would wish to speak on behalf of the application if there is time remaining? Hearing none, is there any questions from the planning commission to the applicant? Board of Commissioners? Mr. Phillips, if you would, please make sure that what we do from this point moving forward is in accordance with the requirements of this body. What we have before us right now is a consideration to establish a definition and insert a property use within the I-1 zoning district for what has been defined in this application as an inert transfer station, worded as it is in the application, in the agenda. So is there a motion? Again, this is a recommending body. Regardless of the recommendation, it will be forwarded to the city of Hiram's council for consideration and a legal public hearing at that time. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So at this time, I would ask the planning commission, is there a motion, further discussion amongst the planning commission with regard to this application or text amendment?
A motion for further discussion.
Don't have to have a motion for further discussion. Is there further discussion or is there a motion that needs to be from the planning commission? Anybody want to make it?
I'd like to make a motion to deny 2014-02-TA for a text amendment to the Hiram zoning ordinance.
I have a motion from Ms. Filion to deny application 2014-02-TA City of Hiram for a text amendment to the I-1 zoning district of Hiram's zoning ordinance. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
I have a second from Mr. Farr. All in favor? All opposed? And we have an abstention from Mr. Matthews due to other reasons. So we have 4, 0, and 2. The motion to deny passes. Again, this will be forwarded to the City of Hiram's next regularly scheduled meeting that will give them the time enough to advertise for the public hearing. It will not be next Tuesday, that will be a month from now, in July. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. I'll second that. Motion to adjourn, Mr. Horvath. A second from Mr. Chambers. Please, just a moment, I have Mr. Stokes.
Yes, I'd like to say, I need a solemn promise from Mr. Vanek and Mr. Butler that there will be no TV reality series that's coming from Storage Wars. And today, I don't want to see anybody on TV, I need a promise. I'm kidding, thank you guys.
We have a motion from Mr. Horvath to adjourn, and a second from Mr. Matthews. All in favor?